Hey friends, in today's video I'm going to be showing you how I went from a blank sketchbook to this to this. So I hope you stick around because I'm going to be breaking down my entire process for this sketch from start to finish. So let's get into it. Alright, painting today in my Arches travel journal, which is literally the exact same quality of paper that you would get in a 10 by 14 sized sheet of paper. So it's great. And I'm going to be sketching today with my Pigma Micron 0.02 sized Sakura pen. I love these pens. The only downside is that the nib wears out pretty quickly if you're painting on paper with texture, which I always am. But the good thing about this is that the ink does not smudge when you paint over top of it. And there's plenty of other pens that do the same. This is just one that I happened to have available. So let's first drop in that horizon line, which kind of goes down at an angle, something like that. I'm just very, very lightly sketching that in there. When I'm not doing a pencil sketch ahead of time, I do a first pass in very light pen to give myself just a little bit of leeway, and then I'll go back over it with darker lines. So that'll basically be the horizon line. And I kind of want this sketch to have somewhat of an unfinished look, I think. I think that'll be pretty cool. So let's just drop in this big ol' twisty saguaro here. Slightly offset from center, so center of the page would be like that. So the middle of the saguaro will be about there. Very slightly off center. And let's just see how wide this guy is going to be. Something about like that, I think. Now I need to decide where the top of the saguaro cactus is going to be. The cactus kind of leans over as it goes up. So about there, I think. And I'm doing this so that I have a point to aim for when I'm drawing this cactus, because it has a bit of an arc to it. So this is going to help me do that more accurately. And while I'm at it, I can just kind of very lightly sketch in the top of the cactus, and then I'll just fill in the rest from there. The arms we will worry about in just a second, but let's sketch the main body of this cactus. This is going to be a little tricky, but I kind of just have to hold my breath and go for it and hope for the best. Let's see. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to go about this, because I need to know where these arms join the body of the cactus. So one of those arms is about right there. It's kind of where it joins in. Might sketch that in first, actually. Kind of comes down and curls up like that. Almost like it has an elephant trunk. This arm comes down. I like how all the arms on this side have a little, it's like the very end of it kind of sticks up, and they all do that. It's kind of a satisfying shape. Making that one just a little thicker. Okay, got that just about right. Very complex shape and pretty tricky to do just going straight in with pen, but I figured it out. I had to make some adjustments to some of the arms. They were slightly off where I wanted them to be. Trying to decide if I want to include the other cactus around, and I think I will. I was considering just doing it with only this cactus in the scene, but I like having the other cactus around to kind of give a sense of scale and perspective. Make it feel like it's a part of an environment. And it's really, really hard to tell just by looking at this photo, but this cactus is absolutely enormous. It is so big. It's probably about 45 feet tall, 40 feet tall, something like that. Absolutely massive. And they get even taller than that too, believe it or not. Most people don't realize how big saguaros are, or how big they can get, until you're standing next to one. I'm not going to really paint much of these bushes and stuff, but I'm just hinting at some texture. The cool thing about pen too is you can add emphasis to certain elements of your scene by making the line work darker or lighter. So these cactus in the background, I'm going to keep the line work pretty light, and I'm going to darken up and add a lot more texture to this one in the foreground. We got this guy right here. This one has more of the stereotypical cactus form that you see, where it's got the main body and it's got all the arms branching off from one point. Such a weird plant. It really feels like an alien. You know, being able to draw like this is, in a way, a childhood dream come true. I've always wanted to be able to do this. I would watch on Channel 8, Public Broadcasting Service, PBS, Saturday mornings. They would do Bob Ross. I'm pretty sure it was reruns by that point in time, although maybe not. Maybe it was actual live paintings that he was doing. It would have been the mid 90s, late 90s. But I would just watch him paint these insanely complex landscapes, starting from a blank canvas and just be thinking, how is he doing this? It looks like a magic trick. And I would just be mesmerized, glued to the TV. And I would, my mom is actually a very talented artist. She would never tell you that, but she is. She's got this old portfolio of amazing drawings that she's done. And I would look at those and just be like, how? Like, this face looks like a picture. How did you do that? So, I guess it does run in the family in a way. Several of my sisters are also very talented artists. But I will say it did not come easy to me at all. It was very hard for me to learn how to do this. And it took a long time. Well, maybe not long by other people's standards, but in my mind, it took a long time. You see that spider running around? See him? There he goes again. He keeps like running around in circles. It's like he's trying to figure out what I'm doing. I'm gonna let him just keep doing his thing because there are mosquitoes in my room and maybe he will get rid of them for me. If you see a spider in your house just minding its own business, just leave it there. It's not hurting anything. In fact, it's helping you with pests. And if you need to get it out of the house, try to not kill it, I would say. Obviously not telling you what to do, but... Okay, so I'm just darkening up the line work of this cactus to emphasize it a little more. Adding some extra texture. Kind of making the final call as to where exactly the shape is. Oh, there he goes. Okay. He's trying to make a house in my sketchbook. Let's just put him over here. There. Maybe that's what he was doing. He was trying to get under my paper. This is turning into a nature documentary real quick. I think this is going to be a really cool little painting, and actually, this is going to be a gift for a good friend of mine. We are in a running group together, and she surprised me with a watercolor painting, a little tiny postcard-sized painting the other day, because she's learning how to paint. So now I gotta give her one. And since we always run out in the desert at South Mountain, I figured this would be a good scene to do. All right. So I'm gonna just sketch in some of these little ribs, or ridges, I guess. The ribs are on the inside of the cactus. The cactus essentially have internal scaffolding, because this entire cactus is filled with water. That's how they're able to survive in the desert. They're actually giant succulents. And these things can just weigh many, many tons, and it's mostly water weight. If a cactus falls on your car, that's the end of your car. That's how heavy they are. Extraordinarily heavy. And in order to hold up all that weight, they need essentially a skeleton on the inside. And if you're walking around the desert, you'll see the remains of cactus that have fallen over. It wouldn't be a saguaro without these ridges. This is a very important, iconic aspect of their texture and their character. And doing this in pen is a lot easier than trying to paint this with a brush. I've done it. You can do it, but this just makes it way easier. You can just be, I find it easier to be really precise with a pen. Although it is very important to learn to draw with a brush. Okay, we're almost ready to start painting. And I'm trying to decide how I want to go about this, because I need to paint around the cactus since it's going to be lighter than the sky. So I was thinking maybe about painting the cactus first and then dropping the sky in after, but I'm just going to go with the sky first like I usually do. So let me get my palette set up and we'll start painting. Okay, so we got a beautiful gradient happening in that sky, which I definitely want to capture. So I'm going to lighten the sky up as it comes down towards the horizon, just like I always do. But towards the top, I'm going to make it a quite dark blue, darker than I would usually paint for a sky, but I need these cactus to be lighter than the sky. So I'm going to go with a very dark, intense blue at the top and gradually lighten it up as it comes down towards the horizon. So let's see if I can pull that off. I'm going to leave, like I said, some unfinished edges here and there. Painting onto dry paper, which is different than what I usually do because I need the paint to not move around at all when I put it on the paper. Because when I do that, paint around this cactus, it's not going to bleed. So to get this sky color, I just mixed up some cobalt blue and some ultramarine blue and some burnt umber to darken it up a little more. And since this is arches, the paper's not going to dry out too fast, and I don't really have to worry too much about losing my edge, about my edge drying out on me before I want it to. And I'm just carefully carving around the edge of this cactus. This is another scene that comes from Saguaro National Park. And right about here, I'm going to start lightening the sky up. Gonna add some cobalt blue light into this blue mixture. Mix that into the sky color that's already on the paper, which will give it a nice gradient. It's kind of tricky to make a really smooth gradient when you're painting around all kinds of stuff like this, but you can do it. It's just you have to kind of really focus on exactly where the gradients start and end. Now you might be wondering, why aren't you just using masking fluid? Well, I find that masking fluid tends to make things look a little stiff and artificial, so if at all possible, I would prefer to just paint around things, give it kind of a slightly more organic, messy look. Yeah, right there. Add some more cobalt blue light to the sky mixture. Mixing it back upwards into the sky to make sure we get that smooth gradient. And as we paint down towards the horizon, we'll just let that paint naturally lighten up as it runs out from the brush. And right about there, I'm going to stop. Rinse off my brush, get it so it's damp, and then I'm just gonna scrub downwards. So it's kind of very light right above the horizon. All right, that's looking good so far. Just drop in a very subtle light color for the sandy ground here. We'll drop in some of the darker colored bushes. I'm just going to drop some cadmium yellow into this sky color that I have on the palette already. Drop some burnt sienna into that green to make it a little more earthy colored. The paper is just about dry enough for me to start painting in the color of the cactus. It's a very, 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 very light green. And I just so happen to have the perfect color on my palette to get that. It's kind of a light minty green. Very, very light wash. Cactus green is tricky to get right, I've found, for whatever reason. It's kind of a green all its own. Nothing else quite looks like it. There's some areas where it's a little more brown here and there. All right. While that dries, just drop some darker colors into these bushes just to add a little bit of texture. We're gonna get out this Skoda Ultimo. It's got a nice point to it. Perfect for this size painting. We're gonna start painting the shadows on this cactus and everything will come together, hopefully. I've got some ultramarine blue and there's this really dark gray color that I already have on the palette. I'm just kind of slightly mixing it into that. I'm gonna get out an even pointier brush, this one. It's a rigger brush, number 6. I'm going to darken up the texture in between some of these ribs with a lighter dark blue-gray. Now you might think we're almost done, and we are, but I'm going to go even darker in a few areas. This is looking really good so far, but it's not quite there. Do not be afraid to push your darks. So like this shadow area here, there's some texture that I want to bring out. This is what makes your painting just jump off the page. See how much more three-dimensional even it is now than it was before? It's all about that contrast. You gotta get that contrast right. I was just adding a little more texture in these bushes. Let's see, is there anything else I need to do? Maybe just a bird or two in the sky, just for fun. Very subtle little birds. Okay, I think that's going to be a finished painting. So thank you very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this. Please do subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. It really helps me out. Check out my website, jacobbentstudio.com, to purchase original paintings and prints, and subscribe for my newsletter. And I really hope I'll see you on the next one.